good morning class. Our lesson for today is solving quadratic equation by factoring. By the way, before we start our lesson, what do we mean by equation and expression? So how do these two terms differ and how do we define these two terms? So if na ako'y 2x plus 1, can we call that thing as an expression or an equation? What about if I have in here 2x squared plus x plus 1 equals 0? Is that an equation or an expression? So when we say expression, that is a combination of variables and numbers. But when we say equation, that is a combination of variables and numbers with the use of an equal sign. We have at the center of the equation, we are using an equal sign to equate two expressions. So this example, that is called an expression. Why expression? Since it is only a combination of variables and numbers. The second example, we can consider that one as an equation. So why an equation? Because we have a symbol or an equal sign on it. Claro ra? So now, if we have the word quadratic plus equation, that becomes quadratic equation. But what do we mean by that? So based on the definition, a quadratic equation is of the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So that is a quadratic equation or the standard form of a quadratic equation where a, b, and c, these coefficients or numbers are elements of real numbers. That means the values of our a, b, and c could be fraction, it could be whole numbers, or it could be counting numbers since the domain is real numbers. Now, however, there is a restriction. The value of our b should not be equal to 0. So a could be greater than or equal to 1, but a cannot be equal to 0. Claro? Now, based on our definition, let us try to identify if these equations could be considered as quadratic equation. We have in here 3x squared minus 23x equals 8. And we have number 2, that's 2x squared equals 9. And for number 3, we have 4x squared minus 12x. Now for number 1, can we consider that equation as a quadratic equation? Yes or no? Yes. Since based on the given definition, we have a quadratic equation is of the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So para dili ka mo maglabad to determine whether a specific equation is a quadratic equation, you only have to take note or to have the exponents recognized. So when we say quadratic equation, its highest degree is 2. Or ang pinakadako, ang pinakataas digit na exponent is 2. So that is a quadratic equation. But take note ha, equation is way different from expression. So since kani, ang ija highest degree is 2 man, we can consider that as a quadratic equation. But if ing ani ra ang ako form, 3x squared minus 23x, although ang ija highest degree is 2, we cannot consider that as a quadratic equation. Why? Kay wala man tay equal sign diha ug isa pa ka term diri sa right side. So, if 3x squared minus 23x that is not an equation or a quadratic equation, but rather, this is just an expression. So again, pag-determine kung quadratic ba ang isa ka equation, you only have to notice or to take note the highest degree of the given equation. So sa kaninga form, we have 2x squared equals 9. Ang ija exponent, we have 2. So since nutugma man siya sa ato definition ng quadratic equation, therefore, we can consider this equation as a quadratic equation. Now for the second one, we have 4x squared minus 12x. So this is 4x squared equals negative 12x. So we have the terms 4x squared and negative 12x. So what are the exponents? So we have our degrees. We have 2 and 1. Remember ha, nga pag isa ra ka variable, automatic ana ang inyang exponent is 1. So no need to write that 1. We have our degrees 2 and 1. So unsa may pinakadako nga exponent or degree sa ilaha? That is 2. Now, since naatay equal nga sign, o naatay exponent nga 2, which is ang pinakadako sa tanan terms, therefore, we can consider this equation as a quadratic equation. Now, basi maglibog ka muna, ma'am. Di ba, ma'am, kay ang definition, ma'am, kay ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0 man, ma'am. Tapos, ang ato a, b, and c, these are coefficients or constant. When we say coefficient, that is ang numero nga gatapad sa variable or sa mga letra. Now in here, ma'am nga nag-consider man nato kani nga quadratic equation nga dili man parehas ang forma, ma'am. Di ba kay naatay x squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Na nang imo gihatag example, ma'am, is 3x squared minus 23x equals 8 man, ma'am. So, hai man ang ato C. Now, this is another form of a quadratic equation. So, kani nga definition, this is the standard form of a quadratic equation. Now, we have to transform this one into a standard form of a quadratic equation. So, unsaon man nato? What are the things that we have to consider or what are the steps that we have to do? So, in here, we only have to identify kung kinsa si A, kinsa si B, o kinsa si C. Now, we have in here, si A kuno is ang katapad sa x squared. So, sa kaninga equation, kinsay katapad ni x squared? We have 3. So, our A in here is 3. No, pag-abot diri, haman si B. Si B kuno is ang katapad sa x nga variable. So, we have in here, ang katapad ni x is negative 23. So, the value of our B is negative 23. Now, given naman na always is 0 once an equation. So, haiman kuno si C. When we say C, that is the constant. Again ha, ang A ug B, these are the coefficients nga gatapad sa variables. When we say C, that is the constant or the number alone. So sa kani sa tuyo nga term, asa man diha ang numero ra or walay katapad nga variable. Diba? We have 8. Now, so ang value sa ato C is 8 or negative 8. 8 or negative 8. So before that, we have to transform this first into a standard form before kita mag-identify ng values ni A, B, ug C para dili kita maglibog. So kung update na kamo, pwede rin ninyo, automatic rin ninyo ihatag ang values ni A, B, and C. But if dili pa, ibalis asa ninyo sa standard form. So from here, from 3x squared minus 23x equals 8. So we have to make this one into 3x squared, copy asa, minus 23x equals 8. So dapat mahimo na siya og kani nga form. So unsaon man na nato? That becomes 3x squared minus 23x minus 8 equals 8 minus 8. So how do we do that? That is by applying the subtraction property of equality. So since positive 8 man ni, so unsaon man kuno nato para mahimo siya ng 0. Umay ato idugang sa number 8 para mahimo siya ng 0. So ang ato gibuhat, nag-subtract kita ng 8 to make it 0. Now note that sa rule sa mathematics, kung unoy imo idugang sa left side, maupod imong idugang sa right side. Kung unoy imo idugang, baliktad, kung unoy imo idugang sa right side, maoy imong idugang sa left side. Ug kung unsay imong idugang sa left side, maupod sa right side. I'm sorry, napuno ang storage. So from here, 8 minus 8, that becomes 0. And on the left side of the equation, we only have to copy this. So we have 3x squared minus 23x minus 8. So naod na nato ang standard form ng quadratic equation. So we have ax squared plus bx plus c. Now if naa na siya sa standard form, i-identify na pod nato ang values ng coefficients o ng constant. So we have a, b, and c. So what are the values of these three? So ang first nato na equation is 3x squared minus 23x minus 8 equals 0. So, basing on the given definition of the standard form ng quadratic equation, hanapon nato ang values ni a, b, ug c. Simple ra. Our first term, which has the highest degree, x squared, or 2 ang highest degree, so the value of our a is 3. The value of our b, ang say value ni b, that's negative 23. So, ang value ng ato c, that is negative 8. Diba? Kung diretso kita magkuha ng values ni a, b, ug c, pwede nato ibutang ang value ni c nga 8, which is wrong, kay waya pa man siya sa standard form. So, we have to convert this one into the standard form first before taking the values of a, b, and c. Claro? Now, on our second equation, number 2, we have 2x squared equals 9. Diba? That is a quadratic equation since the highest degree or the highest exponent is 2. So, i-transfer na pod nato, i-convert nato siya into quadratic equation. So, unsaon man nato pag-convert ng quadratic equation, di ba ang quadratic equation that is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Hala ma'am, duha ra man na sila ka termino. Unsaon man na nato? So, from here, 2x squared equals 9. 2x squared. Since wala man tay value ng second term, we are going to add 0 on that. So, 2x squared plus 0. And then, ang ato c, that is still 0, we have equals 0. Aray.